The final message sent before the alien arrival. The world had been waiting for a sign. Some called it a miracle, others a warning. Across every time zone, news channels buzzed with speculation. A signal from deep space, intelligent in origin, unlike anything Earth had ever intercepted. The signal arrived 3 months ago, brief and cryptic. Scientists spent weeks decoding it, while governments debated the proper response. The message was short, a sequence of tones and images, but unmistakably deliberate. In a small observatory perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, Dr. Elena Morales stared at her screen. She was one of the lead linguists on the decoding team, and the pressure weighed on her like a physical presence. She rubbed her temples and leaned back in her chair. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the faint scent of salt and rain. Inside, the hum of computers filled the silence. "This is it," said her colleague, Dr. Raj Patel, stepping into the room. His face was pale, eyes fixed on the latest interpretation of the signal. "We've translated the final segment. It's a location. And a time." Elena turned sharply. "A location? Where?" Raj hesitated. "It points to Earth. Our coordinates, exactly. And the date. January 17th. He swallowed hard. "Tomorrow." Elena felt her heart skip a beat. Tomorrow. It seemed impossible, yet the data was clear. The aliens weren't sending another message, they were coming. The room felt suddenly smaller, as if the walls themselves were pressing in. "What about the rest of the message?" Elena asked, trying to maintain her composure. Raj shook his head. "It's more like a warning than an explanation. They're intelligent, yes, but we don't know their intentions. The message doesn't say peace or war. It just ends. Final coordinates, final date." Elena's mind raced. Governments would panic when the news went public. Panic could mean chaos. People would demand answers that no one could give. She imagined lines of messages flooding social media, stock markets crashing, cities locking down. And yet, in the face of such uncertainty, humanity still had a chance to send a response, to try communicating before the arrival. The observatory phone rang. Elena picked it up. "Elena," a voice said on the other end, tense and hurried. It was General Harper, head of the International Response Team. "We need your team at headquarters immediately. Bring the translation. The final message, we're sending our response tonight. This is it. No more time." Elena grabbed her bag. Outside, the wind had strengthened, gusts bending the trees. She glanced back at the observatory, thinking of the quiet calm that would soon be replaced by history. She and Raj ran to the helicopter waiting at the edge of the cliff, the rotor blades cutting through the stormy air like a warning. Inside the Government Communications Center, a team of scientists, linguists, and military officials gathered around a massive screen. The final translation played again and again. The sequence of images, patterns, and tones, now converted into human-readable symbols. A deep silence fell over the room. The weight of history pressed on everyone present. "We have less than 24 hours, General Harper said. His voice was steady, but there was no mistaking the tension beneath it. Earth is about to meet the unknown. And our response must be precise. We cannot afford errors." Elena moved to the console, her hands shaking slightly. She had worked on alien languages before, but nothing prepared her for the responsibility of crafting a message that might decide the fate of humanity. "What do we say?" she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Raj placed a hand on her shoulder. "We tell them we exist, that we understand, that we're ready." Across the world, satellites and receivers picked up the same sequence of signals. In every major city, people looked up at the sky, unaware that the most critical message humanity had ever sent was being drafted at that very moment. Elena typed the first words carefully. "To the beings who sent the message, we have received you. We are listening. We wish to communicate before your arrival." Her fingers hesitated. Each keystroke felt like the weight of a lifetime. Hours passed. The message grew longer, attempting to convey humanity's history, achievements, and fears, condensed into symbols and sounds that the aliens might understand. They included mathematics, basic physics, visual images of Earth, and recordings of human voices. Every element had to be precise. Every error could be catastrophic. By midnight, the message was ready. The world waited unknowingly. Only a few knew that this transmission, this final message, might be the last word humanity would ever send. General Harper activated the transmission sequence. A low hum filled the room as the signal climbed through frequencies, bouncing off satellites and stretching into the darkness of space. Elena watched the data feed, each packet of information racing toward the unknown. And above the Earth, the alien vessels glimmered, silent, vast, and impossibly aware. The final countdown had begun. The night was unnaturally quiet. In cities across the world, street lights flickered, electronic devices buzzed strangely, and people stayed indoors, staring at the sky. The alien vessels hung silently, massive silhouettes against the moon, their edges glowing with shifting, iridescent light. No sound. No aggression. Only observation. In the United States, Chicago had become the epicenter of the encounter. Thousands gathered on rooftops and along the lakeshore, staring at the colossal ship hovering over Lake Michigan. The water beneath it shimmered with a strange reflection, as if the vessel itself bent reality. Some people knelt and prayed. Others filmed every second, whispering that history was happening before their eyes. Elena, Raj, and General Harper monitored the situation from the communications center in Washington, D.C. Multiple feeds displayed alien vessels over major cities worldwide. The aliens were not hidden. They wanted to be seen. But their behavior was calm, calculated, and beyond human comprehension. "Look at the patterns," Raj said, pointing at a series of lights moving across a map of the planet. "They are forming a network. Almost like a web of observation. Every city, every major installation. They are mapping everything in real time." General Harper's jaw tightened. "Are we sure this isn't a prelude to an attack?" Elena shook her head. "No. They haven't fired a single shot. They are studying, observing, trying to understand. We have a chance to communicate." The final message humanity had sent was still traveling through space, but the aliens' response came in a way no one expected. Across every display screen, the vessels emitted pulses of light that formed patterns, almost like a visual language. The scientists scrambled to interpret it. Dr. Amina Okafor in London was the first to notice a recognizable sequence. "It's repeating," she shouted. "They are responding to the images and symbols in our message." Elena leaned closer to her own screens. The pulses mirrored certain mathematical and visual elements from humanity's transmission. Slowly, the realization sank in. They were replying. Not with words humans could understand, but with logic, patterns, and intention. In Tokyo, Hannah pressed her face against the window of her apartment. Outside, the sky was alive with the alien lights. The shapes shifted, almost like the aliens themselves were curious about the emotions of those watching below. Hannah's father held her close, unsure if they were witnessing salvation or the end of the world. By midnight, the alien response had become more structured. Scientists across the globe worked frantically to decode it. The lights formed repeating patterns of basic math, prime numbers, sequences, and geometric shapes. Elena realized that this was their way of saying, "We understand your message. We see you." At the communications center, General Harper addressed the room. "This is unprecedented. They are acknowledging us. We need to prepare for direct contact. Elena, Raj, ensure the message is ready for reinforcement. We may have only one chance." Elena nodded, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The new message condensed humanity's plea for understanding, hope for peaceful interaction, and acknowledgement of their arrival. This time, it wasn't just words, it was music, images, mathematics, and symbols woven together. It was a complete representation of what it meant to be human, distilled into a universal language. Meanwhile, the world outside reacted in mixed ways. In Rio de Janeiro, people danced in the streets, thinking the lights were a sign of celebration. In Moscow, some panicked, convinced that the alien presence meant imminent destruction. Governments scrambled to maintain order. Air defense systems were on high alert, but no one dared fire. Humanity was powerless in the face of a civilization so advanced that their technology seemed almost alive. In a quiet moment, Elena whispered to Raj, "Do you think they understand fear? Happiness? Anger?" Raj hesitated. "They must. They are responding to our signals in patterns we can interpret. They are learning, just as we are. But what they feel, I don't know. I don't think we can ever know that." The first true contact came near dawn. In Sydney, the largest vessel lowered a beam of light toward the city center. People gasped as the air shimmered and a holographic projection appeared, an enormous, translucent form that seemed to move with thought rather than body. It was not humanoid. yet it conveyed presence. The projection pulsed, and the lights shifted in ways that humans instinctively recognized as deliberate communication. Children laughed nervously. Adults screamed. Some fainted. Yet the sheer beauty of the display kept most frozen in awe. The aliens had arrived, and humanity was witnessing the impossible. Across the globe, a single realization spread. The aliens were not immediately hostile. They were aware, they were intelligent, and they were observing. Humanity's final message had reached them. The conversation, in its earliest and most fragile form, had begun. In Washington, General Harper turned to Elena. They are waiting for our response. Make it count. Whatever we send, it must show them who we are, completely. Humanity, in all its complexity. No lies. No pretending. Elena swallowed hard. I understand. But what if they don't like what they see? Harper's expression was grim. Then we hope that understanding itself is enough. Outside, the alien vessels pulsed with quiet anticipation. Across oceans and continents, humanity held its breath. For the first time, every human being, whether aware of it or not, was part of a single, collective moment. The first true dialogue between civilizations had begun. And it would change everything. By midday, the world had shifted into a strange, uneasy rhythm. Traffic had ceased in major cities, airports were grounded, and emergency broadcasts urged people to stay calm. Streets that were once filled with hurried pedestrians were now almost empty, except for those brave, or foolish, enough to watch the sky. Elena and Raj worked tirelessly in the communications center, crafting what would become humanity's most comprehensive message. This time, it was not only a plea but a full introduction of the human race, our achievements, our failures, our art, our emotions. Every tone, symbol, and image was carefully selected. The team wanted the aliens to understand not just our intelligence, but our essence. General Harper paced behind them, glancing at multiple screens showing alien activity. They are still observing, he said. Every time we make a move, they react. Be ready. Every symbol, every sound, it could determine how they perceive us. Elena took a deep breath. It has to be perfect. If we fail to convey who we are, we might never get another chance. Raj nodded, staring at the images of the vessels hovering over New Delhi, Paris, and Buenos Aires. They are responding to the earlier message, he said. Patterns in the light pulses match our previous sequences. They are intelligent, yes, but they are learning. They are studying us as much as we're trying to study them. The reinforced message was ready by late afternoon. It combined multiple forms of communication, sequences of light, mathematical equations, short recordings of human voices expressing curiosity, wonder, and even humor. The scientists hoped that even if the aliens could not understand language, they could grasp emotion, logic, and intention. Across the globe, people waited, unaware of the specifics. Families huddled in living rooms, children pressed to the windows, and crowds stood silently in parks. Governments kept a careful watch, wary of panic but unable to stop the gathering spectacle of alien vessels above their cities. Elena initiated the broadcast. A low hum filled the communications center as the reinforced message climbed through satellites and into the orbiting alien network. The beams of light from the vessels shifted in response, pulsing faster and brighter as if acknowledging receipt. Then came the first direct interaction. Across multiple continents, holographic projections appeared in the air above major cities. Unlike the first projection in Sydney, these were more structured, geometric shapes combined with flowing, almost musical patterns. The lights responded to the reinforced message almost immediately. Dr. Malik Ngolo in Africa watched the sequence in awe. It's communication, he said. Not words. Not language. But intent. Emotion. They are reciprocating. Elena's eyes widened. Reciprocating. They are trying to engage. Raj hesitated. But what are they saying? What do we do next? The answer came in subtle shifts. The alien lights began to move in formations that mirrored the reinforced message's patterns. It was as if the aliens were imitating the symbols, the sequences, and even the rhythm of the sounds humanity had sent. The realization struck Elena with a mixture of awe and terror. They were learning our ways of communicating. General Harper stepped forward. They are intelligent. They understand patterns, logic, maybe even emotion. But we still don't know their intentions. Keep monitoring, and be ready for anything. Across the globe, humanity responded in unison, united by an invisible bond of wonder and fear. In London, a young boy pointed at the sky, laughing as the lights formed shapes that seemed to mimic his gestures. In Rio, people held hands, watching the lights ripple in synchrony with human movement. It was as if the aliens were not only observing, they were trying to interact, to understand not just intellect but life itself. And then came a subtle, chilling pattern. Among the pulses of light, a sequence emerged that was unfamiliar, unlike any pattern the humans had sent. It was precise, deliberate, and deliberate. Elena froze. "That pattern," she whispered. "It's a message of its own. I can't read it, but it's directed at us." Raj frowned. "Do you think it's hostile?" Elena shook her head slowly. "I don't know. But it's the first sign that they are not just observing. They are assessing, judging, evaluating humanity." General Harper's expression darkened. "Then we have to be careful. Everything we do, every gesture, every signal, right now, it's being measured." As night fell again, the alien vessels glowed against the darkness. Their forms were massive, silent, and patient. Humanity had sent its final message, and the aliens had responded, not with words, but with intent. A subtle understanding had begun, but it carried a warning. The aliens were not here to simply observe. They were here to evaluate the species that had reached out to them. Elena stared at the screens, her hands trembling. "We've made contact," she whispered. "But I feel they are asking a question we may not be ready to answer." And somewhere above the earth, the alien vessels pulsed again. As if aware of the weight of that very question, waiting for humanity's next move, the world was no longer the same. Cities remained under the silent, watchful glow of the alien vessels, their massive forms casting long shadows over streets and buildings. Humanity had stopped its ordinary rhythms. The normal hum of life had been replaced by a tense, almost reverent stillness. In New York, subway systems halted, office buildings emptied, and the streets were filled only with those brave, or curious, enough to witness the spectacle. People gathered on rooftops, parks, and waterfronts, staring upward at the pulsating lights that seemed to respond to their presence. The lights danced in ways that mimicked human movement, waves of color spreading in perfect synchronization, almost playful, yet undeniably deliberate. Meanwhile, governments struggled to maintain control. Military forces across the globe were at the highest alert. Airspace was restricted, defense systems were prepared to respond at a moment's notice. Still, there was hesitation everywhere. No weapon had been fired. The alien vessels made no aggressive moves. They observed. They waited. In London, Dr. Amina Okafor and her team worked tirelessly to decode the latest patterns of light. "They are still learning," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "They are not just reading our symbols, they are adapting. They are evolving their communication to mirror ours." Her assistant, Leo, leaned closer to the screen. "But what does it mean? Are they friendly? Or is this a test?" Dr. Okafor hesitated. "I don't think we can use our definitions. Friendly or hostile might not exist in their logic. All we know is that they are intelligent, observant, and deliberate. That's enough to make anyone nervous." In Tokyo, young Hannah and her father watched as the alien lights formed shapes in the sky that seemed almost familiar. The shapes twisted and shifted, moving like living drawings. "They're drawing pictures," Hannah whispered. "Do they, like us?" Her father could only hug her tightly, unsure how to answer. Back at the communications center in Washington, General Harper and Elena monitored multiple feeds. They had sent the reinforced message hours ago, and the aliens' responses were becoming increasingly complex. The lights no longer mirrored patterns exactly, they created entirely new sequences. Elena leaned over the console, studying the data. "They are not just repeating our signals," she said. "They are communicating back, in their own way. We're starting to understand some of it." Raj frowned. "Some of it? How much do we understand?" Elena pointed at a sequence of geometric shapes interspersed with pulses of light. "This part. It's almost like a question. Or maybe a statement. It's testing our understanding. I can't tell if it's friendly or something else entirely. But it's directed at us." General Harper's expression darkened. "Then we proceed carefully. Everything we do is being measured." Across the globe, humanity reacted in myriad ways. Some people prayed, convinced that salvation had arrived. Others panicked, predicting doom. Governments issued curfews, but enforcement was difficult. Even the bravest leaders struggled to maintain calm in the face of something so incomprehensibly vast and intelligent. In Rio de Janeiro, thousands of people stood on the beaches, holding hands as the alien lights pulsed over the water. The shapes in the sky seemed to mimic their movements, waves of color rippling outward, responding to every step, every gesture. A collective cheer rose as the crowd realized they were being acknowledged, even if the meaning remained unclear. In Moscow, the reaction was fear. People fled streets where alien lights reflected ominously on buildings. Officials reported power fluctuations and strange electromagnetic readings, fueling rumors that the vessels might be preparing to strike. Panic began to spread. Elena watched all of it unfold from her console. "We've made contact," she said softly. But every human reaction, fear, joy, confusion, they are seeing it. They are learning about us as much as we're learning about them. Raj shook his head. "So, the real message isn't just what we send, it's how we behave. Everything. They are evaluating humanity itself." As night fell, the alien vessels pulsed brighter than ever. Shapes and lights swirled in ways that were almost hypnotic. Humanity had reached out with words, symbols, and emotions, but now the aliens were responding on their own terms. The planet collectively held its breath. Somewhere above the Earth, the vessels moved subtly, forming a lattice of lights across continents. Patterns emerged that were neither threatening nor welcoming. They were statements of presence, of awareness, and of intelligence. Humanity had not only been seen, it had been observed, judged, and tested. Elena turned to General Harper. "We've sent our message. We've responded with intent, emotion, everything we can convey. Now, we wait for their next move." Harper's eyes were fixed on the screens. "Yes. And whatever happens next, it will define the future of our species." The lights pulsed again, brighter, faster, more deliberate. The first part of the final reckoning had begun. The night sky was alive with light. Across every continent, alien vessels pulsed and shimmered in patterns that no human had ever seen before. Unlike previous nights, the lights now carried a rhythm that seemed intentional, not just responsive, but communicative. Humanity realized they were no longer merely being observed, the aliens were reaching out. In Washington, Elena and Raj watched the latest feed from Chicago. The colossal vessel above Lake Michigan had begun projecting a series of geometric shapes interwoven with sequences of pulses. But this time, the shapes formed images, simplified representations of humans, Earth, and even familiar landscapes. It was as if the aliens were trying to show that they understood not just logic or mathematics, but life itself. General Harper stood behind them, silent. "They're depicting us," he said. "Do you think they understand us?" Elena nodded slowly. "Yes. But it's deeper than understanding words or symbols. They are showing awareness, awareness of our world, our lives, our experiences. This is the first time they've moved from observing to interacting on a meaningful level." Across the globe, the same phenomenon was occurring. In Paris, the alien lights projected images of the Eiffel Tower, the Seine River, and crowds of humans standing in awe. In Sydney, the projections showed the Opera House and the harbour, even the people watching from below. Children pointed and laughed, sensing a connection they couldn't articulate. Adults were speechless, caught between fear and wonder. Elena's voice was barely a whisper as she typed furiously at the console. "We need to respond. This is our chance to show them who we are, not just our intelligence, but our emotions, our empathy, our creativity. Everything we are." Raj looked over her shoulder. "But how?" "They are not speaking a language we can hear. They are communicating visually, emotionally. Do we respond the same way?" Elena nodded. "We adapt. We must adapt." Using a combination of holographic projections, light sequences, and musical tones, the team began crafting humanity's response. They included representations of daily life, children playing, families laughing, people working together. They sent images of art, music, architecture, and even moments of grief and struggle. Every element was carefully designed to show that humans were not just intelligent, but complex and emotional beings. Meanwhile, social media erupted with speculation. Videos of the projections spread worldwide, and millions shared their own interpretations of the alien presence. Some believed the aliens were benevolent, Others thought they were preparing to judge, or even punish, humanity. Governments struggled to maintain order. Curfews were enforced, but people refused to stay indoors. The desire to witness history outweighed fear. In London, Dr. Amina Okafor and her team noticed something remarkable. "They are mimicking emotional patterns," she said. "The way we respond to visuals, joy, sadness, fear, they are reflecting it back. They are trying to understand not just what we are, but how we feel." Leo, her assistant, looked stunned. "So, they can feel, in a way?" Dr. Okafor shook her head. "Maybe not like us, but they can perceive emotion. And they are learning empathy, even if it's different from ours." The world watched as the aliens' projections became increasingly intricate. In Tokyo, Hannah and her father saw shapes representing families, children, and entire communities. The lights seemed to resonate with their emotions. When Hannah hugged her father, the colors shifted gently, as if acknowledging the gesture. Across the globe, humans began to realize that their behavior, how they acted, what they showed, was part of the message humanity sent. In Washington, Elena noticed a subtle change in the sequences from Chicago. Among the projections of humans and Earth, a new shape appeared, a symbol that seemed almost like a question mark. She leaned closer. "They are asking us something. A question. But I can't decipher it yet." Raj frowned. "A question? About what?" Elena shook her head. "I don't know. But it's clear they want to understand more than just facts. They want to understand us, completely." General Harper stepped forward. "Whatever the question is, we have to answer. This is our first true dialogue. It's fragile, delicate, and crucial. Humanity's survival, or at least its understanding, depends on how we respond." Outside, the alien vessels pulsed brighter than ever. Across continents, their lights intertwined with human signals in a complex, evolving display. Humanity had taken the first step into interstellar conversation, and the aliens had responded, not with hostility, but with curiosity and awareness. Elena whispered to Raj, "We're not just being observed anymore. We're being engaged. And whatever comes next, it will define the rest of human history." Above the Earth, the alien vessels hovered patiently, silently awaiting humanity's answer. The first true dialogue between species had begun, and the weight of its importance pressed on every human heart. The world held its breath. Humanity had sent its most complete message, and now the alien vessels pulsed with a rhythm that suggested waiting, watching, and questioning. Across every continent, people stared at the sky, sensing that the next moment could define the future of the species. In Washington, D.C., Elena and Raj worked feverishly. The alien projections had introduced a new pattern, a shape resembling a question mark, as if asking humanity to explain itself. But how could they condense the entirety of human existence, emotion, and thought into a single answer that the aliens might understand? "We have to answer honestly," Elena said, her eyes fixed on the screens. "Not just our intelligence, not just our achievements, but who we really are. Every flaw, every act of kindness, every mistake, it all matters. This is our moment." Raj nodded, still tense. "Do we even know how to answer?" Elena hesitated. "We don't. But we have to try." The team devised a multi-layered response. Visual projections showed humanity at its best and worst, children playing, people helping each other, communities rebuilding after disasters, acts of greed and violence, moments of sorrow, moments of triumph. Mathematical and scientific knowledge was represented alongside art, music, and literature. Every element was chosen to show the depth of human experience, the duality of our nature, and the capacity for growth. General Harper watched silently. "We're sending not just data, not just images, but our story. The truth of who we are. If this doesn't reach them, nothing will." As the reinforced message broadcast into space, humanity waited. Across the globe, the alien vessels responded immediately. The lights pulsed and shifted, no longer simply reflecting patterns, but forming sequences that suggested analysis, almost like the aliens were absorbing every fragment of human existence and processing it in real time. In New York, people on rooftops whispered to one another. Children pointed at the sky, sensing connection even without comprehension. In Moscow, the fear that had gripped the city began to mix with awe. Across the world, millions watched the same phenomenon, simultaneously terrified and mesmerized by the alien presence. Elena turned to Raj. Look at the patterns. They're changing. Faster, more intricate. They are reacting to every part of our message. They are not just observing, they are understanding, processing, and responding. Raj's eyes widened. Do you think they approve? Elena shook her head. I don't know if approve is the right word. But they are judging. Evaluating. They want to know if humanity is worthy of their attention. Across the oceans, scientists reported strange phenomena. Satellites realigned themselves as if under guidance, ocean currents reflected faint energy pulses, and atmospheric readings indicated that the alien vessels were interacting with Earth's natural systems, not harming, but measuring. Humanity had become part of a planetary-scale experiment, one conducted by beings whose intelligence and patience far exceeded human understanding. By midnight, the alien response had taken on a more structured form. The lights and projections now depicted scenarios that humanity recognized as ethical dilemmas, a choice between war and peace, exploitation and conservation, greed and compassion. The aliens were not just learning facts, they were testing humanity's values. In Tokyo, Hannah watched the lights reflect above her apartment. Her father held her tightly as the shapes shifted to depict humans helping one another and rebuilding their cities. The symbols seemed to suggest inquiry. Which path will you choose? What are you willing to become? Elena's hands trembled over the keyboard. They are asking about our choices. Not just what we are, but what we could be. Everything we've done is part of this evaluation. And whatever we send next, it has to reflect hope. Potential. Growth. General Harper's face was grim. Then we give them the truth. The full story of humanity, with all its flaws, and all its potential. Anything less could be catastrophic. As the reinforced message went out again, the alien vessels pulsed brighter than ever. Humanity's response seemed to resonate with them, though the exact meaning remained elusive. Across continents, the lights intertwined with human signals in a magnificent display of communication, a first dialogue bridging worlds. And in that silence, stretched across time zones and oceans, humanity realized something profound. The aliens were not here to destroy. They were here to understand. They were evaluating humanity not merely for curiosity, but for a purpose humanity could not yet see. Elena whispered, almost to herself, they are giving us a chance to show who we really are. Raj nodded. And the world is watching. Above the Earth, the alien vessels shimmered in anticipation, patiently awaiting humanity's next move. The final stage of the first interstellar conversation had begun. The world waited. Every human, whether aware of it or not, was part of a moment that would be remembered for millennia. Alien vessels hovered over every continent, their immense forms glowing with shifting, iridescent light. For the first time, their purpose seemed within reach of human understanding. In Washington, Elena, Raj, and General Harper watched the latest transmission from the Chicago vessel. The light sequences now formed patterns so intricate, so precise, that it was clear the aliens were conveying something beyond observation. They were communicating judgment, understanding, and intention. Elena leaned forward, her heart racing. They are responding to the ethical message. The choices we sent, the compassion, the struggle, the mistakes, they are all being reflected back. Raj's voice was tight with awe. They understand us. Every part of us. Suddenly, the projections shifted. Across every city, holographic images formed above human populations. They were not just symbols or abstract shapes this time. They depicted humans helping one another, saving lives, healing wounds, building communities. The aliens were showing humans the paths they had chosen, acts of kindness and courage amplified across the globe. In Rio de Janeiro, people cheered and cried as the alien lights danced over the water, reflecting their shared humanity. In Moscow, skepticism faded into awe. Across continents, humans realized the aliens' evaluation was not punishment, it was recognition. General Harper turned to Elena. They are giving us approval. Or at least acknowledgement. Look at how they highlight cooperation, empathy, creativity. This is what they value. Elena's hands trembled as she replied. Yes. And the moments of failure, the greed, the violence, the hatred, they are showing those too. But it's not condemnation. It's guidance. They are asking us to learn, to grow. Raj pointed at the screens. Look at the news sequence, they are sending something directly to us, not just reflecting. It's communication. Instructions, maybe.
Advice.
Not words, but concepts.
I think they want to help us evolve.
For hours, humanity and the aliens continued this exchange. The vessel's lights pulsed in synchrony with Earth's energy grids, reflecting the rhythms of human life. Images, mathematical sequences, and emotional projections intertwined in a vast, planet-wide dialogue. It was the first time humanity truly realized it was not alone, and that another intelligence could perceive the depth of human thought, emotion, and morality. In Tokyo, Hannah whispered to her father, They like us, don't they?"
Her father nodded slowly. "They see who we are. And maybe, who we could be."
Elena turned to General Harper.
"This is the final message.
We've shown them everything: knowledge, emotion, hope, potential. Now it's their turn to respond." The alien vessels pulsed one final time, brighter than ever, then began to shift. Slowly, silently, they lifted higher into the atmosphere. For the first time, a sound was heard, not through speakers, but in the minds of those watching. A resonance, a vibration that carried understanding rather than words.
The message was clear: we have seen you. We understand you. We will return when the time is right.
Continue to grow, to learn, to choose wisely.
You are part of the universe now.
Across the globe, people watched the alien vessels ascend and disappear into the stars. Tears, laughter, and disbelief swept through cities simultaneously. Humanity had been tested, evaluated, and acknowledged. The weight of their collective choices, good and bad, had been observed by a civilization far beyond their own. In Washington, Elena exhaled, her body tense with relief and wonder.
Raj placed a hand on her shoulder.
"We did it.
We answered them. And they understood."
General Harper remained silent for a long moment, gazing at the empty skies.
"This changes everything," he finally said.
"Not just what we know about the universe, but what we know about ourselves." Outside, the skies returned to their normal rhythm. Night fell, stars shimmered, and for the first time in months, the hum of everyday life returned. Humanity had survived the first contact, not by might, but by showing the truth of its existence, its fears, its flaws, and its potential for greatness. Elena looked at the horizon, thinking of the future. The aliens were gone, but their presence lingered in the hearts and minds of every human being.
A new chapter had begun.
A chapter of hope, responsibility, and the understanding that the universe was vast, and that humanity had a place in it. And somewhere beyond the stars, the alien civilization watched silently, knowing that one day, the time would come to return.
The final message had been sent.
Humanity had answered.
And the universe had taken notice.